Hello, everyone. This is the Ego Project, and I am Lisa Heidel.
And I'm Cristine Seidel.
And we are here with a very special guest,
Galen Wood.
Thank you, Galen. We're so excited. Today we are talking about the ego and aging, something that we all do, yet no one really wants to talk about. Okay, so we are digging deep into it today. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about who Galen is and what she does, and then we're going to start having this very insightful conversation. Okay, Galen Wood is an innovator in coaching, management consulting, and organizational development. As an insightful leader and principal of Point Alliance LLC, she offers over 30 years of experience working directly with top leaders and teams in a variety of organizations, including government, nonprofit, entrepreneurial, and Fortune 500 global corporations. Galen's holistic approach to the work incorporates analytical, intuitive, and creative solutions, allowing her to inspire and guide clients into clarity and purposeful action. She currently devotes much of her time as president of the board of Point Roberts Circle of Care in Washington State, which provides services to help people stay in their homes and community as long as possible. The board's 5-year plan is to build 3 adult family homes, housing 24 residents in the greenhouse project model, and Galen is on the steering committee and leading it, I believe. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of insight into Galen. And since we're talking about aging today, we have to talk about our ages. Okay, so I'll go first. Okay, I am 53 years old. And Cristine?
I'm 43.
Okay, and Galen?
I'm 80.
There you go. Bravo. Yes. Okay. And that is why one of the many reasons we wanted Galen to come on and talk about aging. She is definitely a life goal for anyone who wants to learn about aging and really embrace, what it means to age gracefully and gratefully, in my opinion. So Galen, we're going to go ahead and start off with some questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, so what is the biggest positive surprise you've had about aging?
That it's gone so fast. I was just 28 years old, just recently, I'm sure.
Right, absolutely.
And it's just been a journey, the likes of which I could not have imagined. I have to say that when I was younger than 35 years old, I looked at people who are 35 and I thought, well, that's going to be the peak of my life. And I have an image of what I'm going to be like at 35. And on my birthday, when I hit 35, I remembered what I had said when I was much younger. And I thought, this is so much more than I ever could have imagined. And I gave up projecting what I would be like at any age after that.
Oh, wow. That's so cool to have that, like that insight in that conversation with yourself in that moment,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's freedom, to
Absolutely.
create yourself however you want to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. And, Galen, can you talk a little bit about how your life is structured? You're still working, you still run your own business.
Yes.
And I don't mean just still, but I mean, a lot of people have retired, 20 years ago, from the age that you are now, and you just keep getting, I think you're getting better and better, everything that you do. Can you talk a little bit about how you structure your life and your days and what you do?
Well, it's been a progressive journey. And I was full on 15 years ago with a firm in Denver, Colorado. And I had a business partner and we were extremely busy. And it just never occurred to me that my life would change. And suddenly 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I just suddenly realized that I wanted a different kind of a life, but I didn't want to give up everything that I had been doing up until that time. So I moved to Point Roberts, Washington, which is very different than living in a loft in downtown Denver. And as you can see, I'm in the woods, not far from the beach, which is quite a difference. And I just decided that if I'm going to keep working, it's going to support the life I want to lead rather than trying to figure out how to live because work is the most important. And that was the only shift I really made consciously 11 years ago. And it's been remarkable what's happened, because for the first 2 or 3 years after I moved here, I was working less hours under much less stress, and I was accomplishing just as much and actually had more business than I did when I was in Denver.
Wow.
And then things began to fall away a little bit. And I became involved with this nonprofit Circle of Care here in Point Roberts. And by process of elimination, at the beginning of COVID, I became president.
Wow.
And that's been at least 50% of my time. So really, I have 3 part-time businesses, or things that take up my time and that I'm passionate about. One is my own business. 2 is Circle of Care, certainly, and what we are in the process of doing. And then just because I didn't have enough to do, I bought a rental unit in Palm Springs, which I manage from here.
Nice.
So it's between those 3, it's pretty full-time work. And yoga 4 days a week.
Thank you for bringing up yoga. You
2
have
hours of yoga 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you are also so well traveled. And, which is so inspiring to me, because, I love to travel as well. So, and where did you just came back from a boat trip, correct?
Yes, I was down in the Caribbean in Grenada, which is in the West Indies, for a little over 2 weeks with friends on their catamaran. And I came back for 10 days, and then I went to Palm Springs for 10 days. And now in December, I'm going back to Palm Springs and enjoy my own condo there over Christmas. And then I'm leaving on the 28th of December and going to visit my sister in Hawaii for 10 days. So
I officially need some coaching from Galen. It's official.
Well, and I'm so happy that you shared all of that, because one, your energy is obviously coming through as you're explaining everything that you do, but it also what you do explains your energy. Energy gives you more energy and all of that. And they even, the author and researcher, Dr. Becca Levy, talks about how your mindset is so important, probably more important than your diet and your exercise, because it can give you 7.5 more years on your life with the proper mindset, about aging. So what kind of ego work have you done around aging?
Oh my gosh. That's been going on a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I was in training to be a therapist when I was in my mid-30s. And at the end of that, realized that I wanted to just take what I had learned and take it into the business world, because that was more suitable for where I felt I could make a difference. And when I was in that training, I came to understand that the ego is not who I am. And that at that point, I realized that the ego had become the super ego, which was a persona that I had created to protect myself from those things that I feared.
Yeah.
And at that point, there was a major shift in my life. And so this has been an ongoing process since I was in my 30s. And so it's more than 40 years ago, a little more than 40 years ago. And I'm very comfortable now because not because I've put my ego aside, because we should never do that. What we need to do is incorporate and realize that if we move from the heart, the ego will be the rudder to keep us on the right path. But it starts with moving from the heart. And so this is the way I live my life at this point. If I don't love it, I won't do it anymore, unless I absolutely have to. I mean, I do have to take out the garbage once a week.
But once it's out, that does light you up, right? Like you're like,
oh, absolutely.
I love the way my house looks like without the garbage in there. So,
yeah.
And I have to say, you know, hearing you and listening to you, and, you know, I have the pleasure of actually getting to see you talk. You know, some of our viewers will only have the audio, but you do light up when you talk about who you are and where you're at in life and decisions that you've made. And I want our viewers and our listeners to really cue into that is the voice of somebody who has sit with themselves and has done a lot of work to really listen and have those internal conversations and not allow those conversations and that ego to hijack them, to take them to other places because, you know, what they should, could, or would do. But even you saying when it was time to move to Port Roberts, like it was that moment you had done so much work that you were very clear in listening to, I'm no longer available to continue down the path I've gone, you know, and I'm not going to continue to go back and forth on what I should do or what people think about me or this and that. That work that foundation was already in place to be able to really cue into your heart, like you said, and feel confident in moving through those decisions.
Well, I've kind of lived my adult life, certainly in the last 35 years, on a more spontaneous level. So if you're going to be spontaneous, you can't have a lot of preconceived ideas of what's going to happen in the future.
Wow, yeah.
And I don't, you know, when people ask me about my past, I'm happy to talk about it, but I don't personally dwell in my past. Mm-hmm. I'm as much in the present as possible. And I have found that when I have an instantaneous decision, I don't second guess it. I go on it because I'm totally clear that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Yes. It's like the self with a capital S. Mm-hmm. It is guiding the way.
Yeah.
And for me to second guess it is usually the very wrong move.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Lisa, I think Galen's probably a generator. She's probably somebody who just gets lit up and it's like, I know that this is a heck yes, or this is a heck no. And I'm moving through that decision.
You know, the irony is she's actually a manifester.
Really?
And I have been witness to her so manifesting abilities. It is extraordinary to watch. I mean, she literally said, oh, I would love some figs. And someone dropped figs at her door within an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Out of season.
I've got a little envy now,
It's really quite impressive to watch. Yeah. To witness.
Yeah. Well, and something you just said, Galen, was, you mentioned, not looking back. And I think that is part of some of the issues we have in our culture and our society as we talk about aging. Is it's almost with this projected regret or lack in the past, like in what has happened, instead of what is still available, what is happening right now, what is in store for me in my next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, instead of focusing so much in the past as we age.
Well, I've learned that as long as I have my health and I feel good every day when I get up, that there's no reason to consider that I can't do whatever I want to do.
I love that. Yeah. Wow. That's that mindset for sure. Yes.
It is definitely. Well, and let me ask you this, because our culture, you know, we are bombarded with words like anti-aging. And, you know, if we have an ache, we're like, oh, I'm getting old, or I can't do that because, you know, that's for younger people. And, you know, I mean, we could go on and on with, you know, the phrasing that we hear constantly, especially as women in our culture about aging. So can you talk a little bit about how, I know how it's impacted me. I'm in my middle years, and I know how it's impacted, you know, how I navigate in the world, how I view myself, and the ego work I have to do around it. Can you talk a little bit about the ego work that you've done, you know, kind of pushing back against the cultural expectations, as well as your own personal, you know, coming to terms with that ego aspects of aging for yourself?
Well, I think in terms of my interrelationship within myself, the hardest thing for me was about 2.5 years ago. I had to have cataract surgery. And it finally got to that point that I just couldn't stand that everything was kind of grayed out. So I talked the ophthalmologist into letting me have the surgery. And when I had both eyes done, I looked in the mirror and I went, oh my God, I've got wrinkles. This is terrible. What am I going to do? I'm looking so old.
The unintended blessing of cataracts, right?
I know. And then I realized, you know, every year when I get close to my birthday, I think, oh my God, I don't want anybody to take my picture because I'm looking older. And then I look back 6 months later and I look at the picture and I went, doesn't look so bad.
Yeah.
You know, it was better than I am now, but so I've just translated that into, you know, this is the way I am.
Yeah.
And I find that people that I talk to, whether they know exactly how old I am, it's clear. I mean, I have a son, Lisa's age. They're a month apart in age.
Yeah.
Not even a month. I think they're 2 weeks apart in age. And so people know that I'm not a youngster anymore, obviously. And when you show up with a positive attitude about yourself that's genuine, that comes from the fact that you can accept yourself the way you are, then it pushes back on people's expectations that because you're a certain age, you shouldn't be like that. Because the fact is, I am like that.
Exactly.
I am the way I am.
Yep. I love that. Yeah.
Me too. I'm such a, you know, strong proponent of when people say, well, you know, wow, you don't look your age. I'm like, obviously I do. And this is the way this age looks on me.
That's right.
Right. And I so believe beauty is beauty, you know, and beauty shines through, and it's more than this, you know, it's more than the vessel. It's about how generous we are and how compassionate we are and how giving we are to those around us and to ourselves. And I see that in you, Galen, when you give to the community, but you also give to yourself.
Oh, yes.
You know, you are very aware of that there is something inside of you that needs attended to. Yeah. And can you speak to that a little bit, Cristine, about how important that is at any age?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, you know, fundamentally, you know, as we navigate this world, you know, from the time that we were little babies and we arrive to the time that we leave is, you know, we are desiring that connection and the attendance and a tuning in of others around us, especially when we were, you know, babies and we couldn't provide for our basic needs. And then as we get older and we, find peers and our parents and all the people, we, are still trying to get that from other people, but fundamentally, that attending and attuning has to come from ourselves, really going back and attending to that true self, who we really are, and getting to know that person without all of the judgment and criticism that we oftentimes tell it, right? Like, well, you should be doing this, or if you are more like that, but really attending and attuning into our true self. And I think that's what Galen is really kind of communicating to us today, and is a great example of, is that when you invest in really knowing who you really are and loving who you really are, you get to show, that's attending and attuning into yourself, and you're able to show up and do that for others because it's authentic and it's genuine. And that's where when we meet other people who haven't really done that work, even if they're saying the right things, like saying, and they're showing that they're confident and they're happy in their own skin and all that stuff, we can sense when they haven't really attended and attuned into that genuine part of themselves to really love that person. And that's just something that, like, fundamentally as humans is in us for a reason to sense when, one, we need it from somebody who we've got this reciprocal relationship with, and we're in agreement that I have needs and you have needs, and okay, we're going to meet them. But we have that with ourselves fundamentally, and we sense when we don't have that, and or when other people don't have that. Yeah.
That was beautifully put. And, I have to say, Galen, one of the things I admire so much in you is you are a lifelong seeker and a lifelong learner. And I see you still doing personal work. And I know a lot of people who are, they reach a certain age and they're like, I'm cooked, I'm done, right? I'm like, why? There's a whole world in there. Can you talk about that desire that you have to keep learning and seeking and healing aspects of yourself?
There's lots of ways to approach that subject. But I can remember from the time I was probably a teenager, is that I'm more curious than I am afraid. And I think curiosity about, in the way you're talking about the future, is part of what keeps me going. And the reason I'm working on this project within the circle of care is because I have to be on purpose. I know that about myself. I'm not happy unless I'm doing something that has meaning for other than my own life. And my professional career has always been about that. And now I'm doing the same thing. I just don't get paid for it.
You get paid in different ways, right?
I get paid in a multiple of ways. That's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But it's my curiosity about the future, I think, that really keeps me going.
And
I'm not afraid of my life ending, but while I'm here and I'm in body, I want to enjoy every single day that I possibly can. I want to know what's going to happen. I'm a natural planner. I love planning. And just because it's really fun to imagine these things.
Absolutely.
And, to set direction. And I do a lot of creative visualization about what my future is going to look like. And I find that when I do that seriously on a regular basis, as I am doing now, looking forward 10 years, I start getting images of maybe where I will be living or who I will be with, or it comes in all different kinds of forms. And I just keep a little journal.
Wow.
So that keeps me really curious.
Oh, I love that. Like you're getting little nuggets that are keeping you, open and aware to be like, okay, where do I go from here? What is around that next bend? Which I love that you use the word curiosity, and you use that, you can remember having that curiosity back in being a teenager. And I really think like that curiosity is a calling, like it's calling for us to go out into this world and explore and experience and see those experiences as reflections of, what did I need to learn from this? Or what is it that I need to take from this? Or what does this mean to me? How does this resonate with my values? And it's like this constant journey of just learning more about yourself, about your people, about this world. And I don't think that ever stops. And I think
No,
if
it doesn't have to stop.
It doesn't. And I think that sometimes when it does stop for people, that fear has now superseded that curiosity.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's something that just puts on the brakes. So for me, curiosity is a motivator to just keep going no matter what. And I have to trust myself that I won't do anything too stupid or too dangerous.
True. I know that feeling.
But I can justify, this is the other part, is that I can justify whatever I feel like I really want to do.
Yeah.
I can find a good reason to do it.
Right. And it has probably served you very well in most cases. So it's something to definitely trust and continue to trust in. So,
well, how much of what you're saying, that curiosity, that drive, that, your goal to live on purpose, how much of that do you feel is you were just born that way? And how much of it is intentional? Because, we're made a certain way and we have, our own blueprint, but then we have to make intention. And I think a lot of people as they age, reach a point where they don't make that intention. So can you talk a little bit, how much, do you feel it is either one? And then how do you set your intentions?
Part of that is the way I always was. I mean, I think I came in that way. I came in being curious.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I could tell you stories that my mother has told me about why she got gray hair so early, but it was usually because I was curious, and I wasn't particularly afraid of the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sneak out of the house when I was 2.5 years old, and I knew what neighbors made cookies on what days. And my mother would think I was lost, and she'd call the sheriffs, and they'd go, "No, Mrs. Ehrlich, she's just down the street." Just
it's chocolate chip cookie day. Love that.
Life was very different back in those days.
Right.
It was safe to go wandering in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But that was my curiosity. Mm-hmm. And the intention came in at a particular time when I had finished my training as a therapist, and I realized that you have to figure out what you're good at, mm-hmm. and what you really enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. And then in a work situation, you need to delegate the rest of it to other people. Mm-hmm. Mm. And that's what good management is about. But mm-hmm. you have to have the intention that you're looking for what's best in your own life, in your business, with your colleagues, and not let that ego say, "Oh, but I want all the adulation for that one." Mm-hmm. And you have to intend to, you have to be very purposeful, mm-hmm. about the decisions you make and the choices you make.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because that really is tying into, you really knowing innately who you kind of were at a young age, being curious and taking chances and just wanting to experience, and then doing the work to go into this business world and not trying to be everything else, but knowing I'm really good at these facets of this because this is true to me. This is what makes me feel like I'm working and I'm working with purpose, and it lights me up. And then understanding it's okay to bring other people in to surround you, that they're doing the things that light them up too. And I think in business, we do see oftentimes people who haven't learned how to lead with that intention try and be like, no, I've got this, or I've got that, or, not really allowing their team to shine too in a way that their purpose to do as well. So can you speak to, was there a time, because it does sound like, you thought you were going on a journey to be a therapist, and then as you were leaving that, you're like, no, this is more along the lines of what I feel purpose to do. Did you have any kind of grapples with that, as far as who you thought you were going to be through the process that, because the therapeutic educational process, they make you do a lot of introspective work, and you're in spaces with clients, as you're honing in your skills. So was there any ego work where you went through that program, came out of it, decided to pivot? Did you grapple with that decision?
Oh, just a little, for about 13 months. I was already in my late 30s when I was completing my training.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd had an analyst of my own for 5 years.
Right.
While I was going through all of this training.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I was managing a restaurant about 60 hours a week.
Wow. Yeah.
And when I realized that I was not on the right path, mm-hmm. in either way, I quit the therapy training. I completed the training, but I didn't go into an internship. Mm-hmm. And I left the restaurant business.
Oh, wow.
And for almost a year, I grappled with this. I stayed home. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of yoga. I did a lot of everything. I had acupuncture. I tried all kinds of things. And I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do next. I just knew that I didn't want to do either one of those things.
Right.
That was my 12th year in the restaurant business.
Wow.
And it was time to get out because it was not the right thing for me to be doing. Mm-hmm. And finally, I just sat down and said, okay, self, I give up. What am I not asking? What am I not asking? Why am I not asking the right questions? Mm-hmm. And the answer came to me immediately and said, everything you need to know is inside of yourself. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, self, what do I need next for myself? And it said, you need to find role models in the business world.
Wow. Who
are women, because you've only worked with men who have been your mentors.
Yeah.
And you know yourself very well at this point with all this therapy stuff.
Right.
But you don't know how to be in the business world. And I just sat with that for a while. And it was so clear to me that that was absolutely true. Within 2 weeks, I got a call from one of my close friends who had just taken a job in one of the most exciting companies in Los Angeles, where I was at that time. The company had just gotten a contract to staff and manage hospitals for the Saudi Arabian military.
Wow.
And she said, we need you in this organization. And she said, it's just a short-term contract. Well, I was there for 5 years.
Wow.
And all the women that I worked with became my role models until I figured out how to be a woman in the business world.
In this world. Wow.
And everything has been easy since then.
Yep, that's the manifester. Okay, I see it now.
Oh yeah, it's powerful. It's really, you have to see it. You have to see it to experience. Thank you for sharing that, Galen, because I think so often as women, we negate the importance of the female relationships in our lives. We take them for granted. We don't understand how powerful they can be. So thank you for talking about that. What do you think, Cristine?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, what I love, what I really took away from that was that you gave yourself permission to be uncomfortable for a period of time of not knowing so that you could get clarity. Yeah. And in that clarity, really it propelled you in a direction that you needed to be clear because the doors were about to open up for you. And like you said, it was easy. I mean, once you were able to relinquish all the conditioning of what you should, could, would do, what you invested in for so long with your education and the financial investment and all of that, when you gave yourself permission to just trust yourself, give yourself time to be clear, life became easier as far as what opportunities were going to come, and put you in a position that you probably would have never been able to just work and scratch your way to get to.
I didn't even know that kind of work existed.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So I think that's really where when we talk about ego, allowing yourself the discomfort of trying to see what's on the other end of this discontent or this frustration or whatever it is, because you were very clear that this direction and that direction were not the way to go. But that's a very scary place for people to sit, and for 13 months, no less.
Yeah, this was not short term.
Yeah,
this was a long time. Yeah. It's like going into silent meditation for about 30 days.
Yeah,
all by yourself. And yeah, when you really run out of all your ideas about what the outside world is and what you should be doing in the outside world, then you can sit quietly and listen to yourself. I was sitting in a little cave on the sand in Malibu by myself, where I had been sitting for about 3 hours that afternoon, where all that came.
Wow. And I think that's something Lisa, I think we've talked about this in the past with some of our other guests, is that aloneness that we really need to have with our ego.
Yeah, we really do. And I do believe it's the only way you're going to hear what you need to hear. Yeah. The world is loud, and it can only get louder if we allow it, but we have the ability to quiet it, yet we resist it because it's fearful. We don't know what's in there. It's scary, right? It's your mind can be, a pretty frightening alley to walk down at times, right? But to get quiet with yourself and go inward, I think that's courageous. I think that's a brave thing to do. So how do you use that stillness now? You said that you do yoga, Galen, and can you talk a little bit about your yoga practice, and then also how you use stillness?
Well, I also meditate, but not every single day, and I don't have a specific routine for meditation. I consider yoga as moving meditation. But I find it's essential for me to have quiet and aloneness in my house. And I'm no longer married, and I've been living alone for quite some time. But because I live in this beautiful climate and this beautiful scenery, Lisa, it's kind of a Zen house.
Oh, it's fabulous. I love it. Yeah.
And it is absolutely, it's not just something I like doing, it's essential. Because in order to, this is one thing about aging, and aging gracefully, is not trying to do everything that I was able to do even 10 years ago, but to have the foresight to realize that if I do one thing out of the three, I'd like to be doing all at the same time, and I do it well, it's far more fulfilling for me personally and effective in the world. So it's critical. It's just what I do is have that quiet time.
Yeah.
I thank you for saying that, because I think so often people think, well, I could 10 years ago, I could do this. I can't do it now. So I can't do anything, right? It's like, well, of course you can, Do you think that that's something that holds people back as they age? Do you see that in your peer group, and people that you're around, especially with your work in Circle of Care? Do you see that kind of quitting?
I think that goes back to one of the things that we were talking about in the very beginning. It's about your mindset. If you think you are old, then you probably are.
Yeah.
I have the good fortune of being very healthy. I mean, I come from good genes. And my sister and I share this. She's 3 years younger than I am. So she's moving right up. She's going to outdo me pretty soon. We'll stay the same age, and she's going to get older for a change. She doesn't know that yet, but but she moves all over the world.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, she's a journalist and a writer, and she just, if I need to go to Greenland for 6 months to finish this book, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But actually this is talking about her, because this was very graphic. 2 years ago, she went to Greenland again. She's written several books on climate change and the effect in the Arctic and Greenland. She's rather a specialist in all of that. And she got up there and realized that she didn't have the stamina that she had 10 years ago. And she came home early. And she said, I don't think I can do this again in the winter. So, you get to a certain point where the world says, no, sorry, you just can't do that anymore. I did 30 years of jazzercise, 5 days a week.
Oh, I love me some jazzercise. Yep.
I love jazzercise, but I can't do it the way I used to do it anymore. And it's okay.
Yeah.
So I do yoga now.
Right.
See, that's it, right?
Replace it with something. Yes.
Exactly.
Something else. Don't just let it all fall away. Like, well, if I can't do jazzercise, then I guess I'm just not going to do anything that,
I can't exercise anymore. I think you hear that a lot. Like, well, if I can't travel and walk where I want to go, I just don't travel. It's like, well, maybe you can go and, enjoy a beach or, explore.
Take a cruise.
Exactly. Something different. Yeah. And let's go ahead and, I'll let you say your sister's name so that we give her a little shout out, and I'll put a description link in the bio.
My sister is Gretel Ehrlich, and her most recent book is an autobiographical narrative of a very exciting life. It's called Unsolaced.
Oh.
Awesome. Brilliant writer, definitely. I mean, Galen and her sister, truly. I mean,
yes.
Once again, life goals. Okay. Well, we're gonna go ahead and finish up, Galen. We would love for you to offer any advice around ego work, ego healing, to anyone who's listening. Once again, we all have a lifespan, right? And we are all moving through it. So, what advice on ego and aging and ego and healing would you like to offer our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing as we go through the years is to, one, be curious, two, take care of ourselves physically and emotionally. And become our own best friends. anytime you're being hard on yourself, think, gosh, would I be this way with my best friend? And the answer is usually no. So if I begin to treat myself as well as I treat my friends, then I will be a good friend to myself. And it really doesn't have to do with ego. I think one of the natural things that happens for people getting older is that you begin to realize that you've had a good life, however difficult or easy it has been, but you've had a rich life at the very least. And maybe it's time to give back. And when you start thinking about other people and what you can do and what you can share to give back, the ego gets put in the right place within your psyche.
Yes, I love that.
Me too. And thank you for saying that about your emotional health. I think
Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah, and mental health is as important as our physical health. And
Absolutely.
especially in the aging community, because there's a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of isolation that really doesn't get we don't talk about it very much. Cristine, can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, as we start looking at, people aging and some of those disorders that are really associated with, the aging community, we're talking about like dementia and Alzheimer's, and, what we're finding in research is, the more community focused, the more socialized, the more invested, people are as they age, and being active participants in their community. We're finding they don't even start showing a lot of the effects of these disorders, even if, post-mortem, they're finding that they did have them. So, having a very rich social, doing the emotional work actually supersedes some of the physical stuff as we age, and the disorders that we see in some of our communities that really, are really hard to watch can be avoided and mitigated to some extent when we really focus on mindset and gratitude and volunteering and socially connecting with others, especially as we gain more time on our hands, we move out of the workforce. So.
Well, that's so good. And talking about community involvement, Galen, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about your greenhouse project, and let our listeners know how they can donate if they feel inspired to this very worthy cause. So can you tell us a little bit about the greenhouse project?
I would love to. Thank you. Now, this is where I really get excited. Circle of Care has been in existence for 7 years. And 2 years ago, we, the board members, decided that we needed to take our mission one step further, one giant step further. Our mission is to help keep people in this rural community in their homes and in the community as long as possible. We have very little medical resources and have to travel an hour to the nearest hospital and on and on. So 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, we all decided as a board that we needed to initiate building an adult family home. And for people who would otherwise have to leave and go to other parts of Washington or other parts of the United States or Canada, to be helped and taken care of when they can no longer live in their homes by themselves. And so we have started this project, and we are now, well, we really got serious about it this last March. So we've been at this almost 9 months, and we are modeling the home that we are raising money to build on an organization called the Greenhouse Project. And you can look it up. It's thegreenhouseproject.org. They have built 370 homes between 6 and 12 beds each for each home. It is the antithesis of institutional housing, and it's brilliant. And this is what we are starting to do. We're looking at locations now. We're doing a market feasibility study here in Point Roberts. And then we'll do a financial feasibility study, and then we'll start designing the home. So if you would like to take a look at what the greenhouse project homes look like, just go to their website, thegreenhouseproject.org. And if you would like to donate to help us move this forward quickly, you can go to prcircleofcare.com. That is our website, is prcircleofcare.com.
Wonderful. We'll go ahead and add the description.
And
we're freezing up just a little bit here. We'll wait for a moment for Galen to unfreeze. There we go.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay,
The joys
there
of
we
rural
go.
living.
That's all right. We learned to just wait very
Yeah,
yeah. Everyone, just don't move.
That's right. Nobody
we'll
move.
go ahead. We'll put all those links in the description box. So if anyone's interested in learning more about the greenhouse project and taking a look at what they offer, and also donating to the Circle of Care to help raise money for this very worthy project, we'll have that description in there, as well as the other things that we've spoken about today. Well, thank you so much, Galen. Is there anything you would like to offer before we sign off here?
Just everybody enjoy the journey, no matter how short or how long it is.
That's right.
Oh, that's so good. What about you, Cristine? You want to offer anything?
No, but Galen, are you on social media? Are you okay if we put that out there so people can follow you and just get?
Absolutely. There's my own organization, Point Alliance, which I have a Facebook.
Okay.
For Point Alliance, and I'm on Facebook with Galen Wood.
Great.
Excellent.
We'll go ahead and add that. And thank you for that reminder, Cristine. And we'll also put Galen's information, including her LinkedIn. If anyone wants to join her network, we'll definitely do that. And Galen, we would love to have you back in the future if you're so willing.
I would love to.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. True pleasure. All right. Bye, Cristine. Bye, Galen.
Bye-bye.
See you next time. Bye-bye.